So when Prabhupada had come to Japan in 1969, I was already there. He had sent me there to help Sudama, Prabhu, and Balimadan, and Chintamani. Those were just the three devotees were there, which is quite amazing. He just like sent his disciples to these places, you know, with nothing, practically speaking, except faith in his order. Prabhupada had given Sudama some instructions. He said, dress in silk and wear flower garlands, and the people will appreciate it. And also, Sudama had told me that when they were looking at a map, this is before he had left, he was Prabhupada's, he was a servant to Prabhupada at that time, and he got down on they were looking at a map, and Prabhupada got down on the floor with him and was pointing out Tokyo and things like that. So Prabhupada had so many aspects to him. So in any case, I was there also, and then Prabhupada came very unexpectedly. This was in 1970, probably in the beginning of 70, because I got there at the very end of 1969. And the first time, as soon as I saw Prabhupada, without knowing anything, he looked so much older and more grave, and I began to cry immediately just seeing him like that. This was at the airport. And then later we found out the cause of him coming. It was said that there was a conspiracy against him, that people weren't passing his mail to him directly. They had changed became the Acharya of ISKCON rather than the founder, or maybe the founder of ISKCON. And we couldn't understand what was going on. I couldn't understand what was going on. But there was something very, very tense. And Prabhupada was traveling with many of his disciples, leading disciples at that time. He had called them all to Los Angeles, and the mood, as we heard it later, was to extricate him out from a very dangerous situation. And many of them had come to Japan with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was going to India with all of them. And one of the lessons I saw from this is that Prabhupada turned a very difficult situation where he felt his movement was being threatened and his own position and relationship with the movement was being threatened. He turned it into something positive, which is the perfection of Krishna consciousness, to use everything in Krishna's service, even this most difficult situation. So what Prabhupada did is he was turning this negative situation into opening up the biggest preaching field in the world, which was India. And he was powerful and wanted to do that very much. But it was very difficult for him to get visas, so for all his disciples, of course, he being an Indian citizen didn't need a visa, but everyone else needed visas. So there was always communication by telegram with Jayapataka Maharaj in Calcutta about have the visas come, have the visas come, have the visas come. And so he turned the negative into the positives, it's the real art, and art in Krishna consciousness. And one of the amazing things that happened there is there was one young Japanese boy who was interested in Krishna consciousness, but he wasn't exactly Japanese. He was Canadian of Japanese origin. His name was Bruce Enomoto. And he was carrying something from a previous life, because he was living outside, a recluse, translating from Japanese into English. And he was just living alone, following all the principles, chanting 16 rounds a day, but he had no inclination to move into the temple or anything like that. And he had been there chanting like that for months. And when Prabhupada came through, he decided he wanted to bring him to India, to Calcutta, and India with him, along with him, with his party, include him in his party. So he asked him to come. And amazingly, this Bruce, who later became Banu, and then still later Banu Swami, he pulled him right out and right into such a prominent position, still translating like anything, like a wildfire, but translating the ancient Vaishnava texts into English. Prabhupada